This video will describe some different elements of organizational patterns or internal navigation inside your actual course site. So after you have determined the navigation menu you plan to use and the different categories of content distribution that you'll have in that menu, that will to some extent dictate the organizational pattern within your course itself. So in our course, the breadth of work actually exists under this course modules button here. This is where you've been completing most of your coursework. However, if you haven't already poked around in our course menu, you'll notice that some places are double linked. For instance, if I click on discussions, I am brought to all of the different discussions that I have available. But if I also click on course modules and I go to a section of a course module, I will see that that discussion also lives here. This is a navigation strategy that allows students to know pretty much upfront and in one place everything that they may need to do in order to accomplish your learning objectives for a module. So generally speaking, on the web, you want to try to organize all of your content necessary for a period of time into one place on the web so that they don't have to click on discussions in order to complete that piece of the course. And then later they click on tools in order to complete this other piece of the course, all within the same week. You want to have them all in the same place, and that's the major reason why web-based learning asks you to organize your content into modules. You have basically two options for organizing content in your course. You have content folders, which is essentially a folder of activities, tools, or handouts that your students can download, or you have learning modules. In this course, we use learning modules because the majority of the course has been originally scripted. We have written most of the content of this course. So we use learning modules for this purpose because that function in Blackboard creates something similar to a paginated ebook. You have been experiencing learning modules as a user in this course, so you have seen that it kind of chunks the content and you can navigate between the pages in the content using arrows. So let's look at what learning modules look like behind the scenes. So I build content, I add a learning module, and this is the icon that I get. And I can then click on that learning module and add things to that learning module, and it will be put into the order that I add them in. Now, as a student in this course, you have noticed that you'll have little arrows right on the right and left that allow you to page through the content, or you can use this table of contents feature over here. As an instructor, you actually lay this material out in a linear fashion. So you'll see that this is the first page of Module 2, and then look, there's the second page of Module 2 right here. And when I hover over it, I can grab these arrows here and move pages to whatever location I need them to be inside that module. Whenever I create something inside a learning module, anything that I create, this table of contents is automatically generated by Blackboard. So I don't need to code anything here. Everything that I put in the body of my module automatically gets created into a table of contents. Most of the content that I put into a Blackboard learning module is build content, create item. An item is essentially an open playground of content availability. So let's take a look at what that might look like. This very first page here is the objectives and activities, and you may have noticed that that's always the first page of my modules. That is an organizational strategy. By having that page be the first page for every module, students are familiar with and comfortable with walking into a new module because they know what to expect right out of the gate. And you may have also noticed that all of these required activities that I list in my objectives actually occur in the course content in order, so that students will always know what's coming next in the module layout. So let's look at an item, because again, create item is an area of course development that you're going to want to know. And I'm actually just going to edit this one, but you also can go to build content, add item, and that will allow you to open up an item page. So as I said before, an item is a bit like a playground. You can do pretty much anything you want with an item. You can add content directly into the text editor, such as I've done here. You can add graphics, In the text editor, you want to look for this little graphic icon, and when I click on the graphic icon, I can select images from my computer by browsing my computer. I can select images from that are already in the course, or I can enter a URL to an image that's hosted somewhere on the web. One caveat about adding images, you do need to go into the appearance feature and just make a couple of changes. You generally don't need to have any images that are larger than 150 pixels. 900 pixels is approximately the width of an average laptop. So if you have a 3000 pixel image, it's going to take up the whole screen and students will have to scroll and scroll and scroll to see that content. Whereas 150 will take up just a kind of a small corner of the screen, or it'll fit nicely on a cell phone or tablet if your students are using those. The other thing is, if you want to wrap text around the image, you do need to select from alignment one of these options. And depending on which one you select, it will determine how this text wraps around the image in your layout. And lastly, if you want to have a little white space around your image so that it doesn't just kind of butt right up against the text, you do want to add just a couple of pixels to the vertical and horizontal space in order to provide a little bit of a buffer on all sides of that image. So once I click update, that will insert the image into my item. And now I've got a fairly dynamic web page. I've got a graphic, I've got text, I can add handouts. So if I put some information about the course content in here and then I have a lengthier handout, I can use the attach button and browse my computer for a document and add that document to the item. And now my students will be able to download that item by clicking here. I can create hypertext by highlighting an area of text, selecting this chain link icon, and entering the full URL, so https://learn.main.edu or google.com or whatever it is. I select open in a new window, and once I insert that, that becomes a clickable link for the student. And I can also add videos to my items by using the mashup tool or the video everywhere tool. Both of these connect to YouTube. So as you can see, an item allows me to make a mini web page, and that mini web page can live inside a learning module like a page in a book. So that page appears in the user's view as a page within a book that they can flip through. Now, if I didn't want to make these mini web pages, if I only needed to link to documents or websites for my student users to work with, then I wouldn't actually create a learning module. I would instead create a content folder. And when I create a content folder, I need to give it a name just like I would with a learning module. And I might give some context here. I might say click on the title to open the folder. And once I click submit, that folder will appear at the bottom of the page and it's automatically available. I click on the folder and now I can start adding content to it. So if I only have documents that I need to add, then I would build content, add file, and I would look for the file on my computer that I want to add, click open, give it a label, and click submit. And as you'll see, that file will manifest in the folder for a student to just click on and open and access it. I can do the same with web links. I can say click here to visit Google, and then I can put the full URL to a web link. And if you don't have the full URL memorized, you can always go to that website, copy and paste it from the address bar, copy it from here, and then paste it in here. So once I click submit, now that link appears in the course folder, and of course I can add tests and discussion board links and blogs and journals to this area as well. So the organizational pattern that you decide to use within your course content area really depends on the type of content you're going to use for the course. So if you're creating, like we did, a lot of original content, then you would have these mini web pages and you might want to chunk it so that it functions like a book, and you would use learning modules. If you are using instead a lot of external content or linking to a lot of different resources, then you'd probably want to use a content folder and then just share your links here. One last note about organization inside your course modules, whether you use content folders or learning modules, you want to make sure that you have a consistent organizational pattern. So if, for example, every week you will have at least one document that students have to download, 4 websites, and a discussion board, then you want to lay them out in every folder in the same order. You would put the document first, you would put the web links next, and then you would click the discussion board at the bottom of that. And an example of that in our module structure, as you will see in every module, the very first page is the objectives and activities, and then what we lay out for required activities versus optional activities actually matches the order or the sequence of the table of contents here, so that students can recognize, okay, so this says that I have to complete an outline first, that's going to be relevant material first. It's either going to be a lesson related to that, or it's actually going to be the assignment link that the student needs to upload that content to the course site. So organizational strategies for web-based delivery: consistency, and then either learning module or content folder, depending on the type of content you plan to use in your course.